Okay, guys, it's Miss Wertz here again today, and I'm going to be reading the last section of part 1 of the book Wonder. So, if you have the book and you're reading along in the book, we're going to be reading today pages 71 to 80, and on the online version, it's going to be pages 57 to 62. And also make sure that you are having your part 1 assignment 2 out. Okay, we'll be answering some questions on there today. So today, if you look at number 7, it says, what is the cheese touch? And if you look right here at our title for today's first chapter, it says the cheese touch. So start out with number 7 for your worksheet when you're going through the reading today. Remember, you can pause at any time to help you answer the questions. The cheese touch. I noticed not too long ago that even though people were getting used to me, no one would actually touch me. I didn't realize this at first because it's not like kids go around touching each other that much in middle school anyway. But last Thursday in dance class, which is like my least favorite class, Mrs. Atanby, the teacher, tried to make Zenma Shin be my dance partner. Now, I've never actually seen someone have a panic attack before, but I have heard about it. And I'm pretty sure Esmenia had a panic attack at that second. She got really nervous and turned pale and literally broke into a sweat within a minute. And then she came up with some lame excuse about really having to go to the bathroom. Anyway, Mrs. Atanby let her off the hook because she ended up not making anyone dance together. Then, yesterday in my science elective, we were doing this cool mystery powder investigation where we had to classify a substance as an acid or a base. Everyone had to heat their mystery powders on a heating plate and make observations. We were all huddled around the powders with our notebooks now that there were 8 kids in the selective, and 7 of them were squished together on one side of the plate, while one of them, me, had loads of room on the other side. So of course I noticed this, but I was hoping Miss Rubin wouldn't notice this because I didn't want her to say something, but of course she did notice this, and of course she said something. Guys, there's plenty of room on that side. Tristan, Nino, go over there, she said to Tristan and Nino. So Tristan and Nino scooted over to my side. Tristan and Nino have always been okay nice to me. I want to go on record saying that. Not super nice, like they don't go out of their way to hang out with me, but okay nice. Like they say hello to me and they talk to me like normal, and they didn't even make a face when Miss Rubin told them to come to my side, which a lot of kids do when they think I'm not looking. Anyway, everything was going fine until Tristan's mystery powder started melting. He moved his foil off the plate just as my powder began to melt, too, which is why I went to move mine off the plate, and then my hand accidentally bumped his hand for a fraction of a second. Tristan jerked his hand away so fast he dropped his foil on the floor while also knocking everyone else's foil off the heating plate. Tristan! Yelled Miss Rubin, but Tristan didn't even care about the spilled powder on the floor or that he ruined the experiment. What he was most concerned about was getting to the lab sink to wash his hands as fast as possible. That's when I knew for sure that there was this thing about touching me at Beecher Prep. I think it's kind of like the cheese touch in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The kids in that story were afraid they'd catch cooties if they touched the old moldy cheese on the basketball court. At Breacher Prep, I'm the old moldy cheese. Again, go back on your assignment and look at number 7 right now before you continue. Okay, so pause it and then come back. Costumes. For me, Halloween is the best holiday in the world. It even beats Christmas. I get to dress up in a costume. I get to wear a mask. I get to go around like every other kid with a mask, and nobody thinks I look weird. Nobody takes a second look. Nobody notices me. Nobody knows me. I wish every day could be Halloween. We could all wear masks all the time. Then we could walk around and get to know each other before we get to see what each other before we got to see what we looked like under the masks. When I was little, I used to wear an astronaut helmet everywhere I went. To the playground, to the supermarket, to pick Via up from school, even in the middle of summer. Though it was so hot, my face would sweat. I think I wore it for a couple of years, but I had to stop wearing it when I had my eye surgery. I was about 7, I think. And then we couldn't find the helmet after that. Mom looked everywhere for it. She figured that it had probably ended up in Gran's attic, and she kept meaning to look for it. But by then, I had gotten used to not wearing it. I have pictures of me in all my Halloween costumes. My first Halloween, I was a pumpkin. My second, I was Tigger. My third, I was Peter Pan. My dad dressed up as Captain Hook. My fourth, I was Captain Hook. My dad dressed up as Peter Pan. My fifth, I was an astronaut. My sixth, I was a Obi-Wan Kenobi. My seventh, I was a clone trooper. My eighth, I was Darth Vader. My ninth, I was the Bleeding Scream, the one that had fake blood oozing out of the skull mask. This year, I'm going to be Boba Fett. Not Boba Fett the kid in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but Boba Fett the man from Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Mom searched everywhere for the costume, but couldn't find one in my size, so she bought me a Jango Fett costume, since Jango was Boba's dad and wore the same armor, and then painted the armor green. She did some other stuff too to make it look worn too. Anyway, it looks totally real. Mom's good at costumes. In homeroom, we all talked about what we were going to be for Halloween. Charlotte was going as a Hermione from Harry Potter. Jack was going as a Wolfman. I heard Julian was going as Jango Fett, which was a weird coincidence. I don't think he liked hearing that I was going as Boba Fett. On the morning of Halloween, Via had this big crying meltdown about something. Via's always been so calm and cool, but this year she's had a couple of these kind of fits. Dad was late for work and was like, "Via, let's go, let's go." Usually Dad is super patient about things, but not when it comes to his being late for work. And his yelling just stressed out Via even more, and she started crying louder. So Mom told Dad to take me to school and that she'd deal with Via. Then Mom kissed me goodbye quickly before I even put on my costume and disappeared into Via's room. "Augie, let's go now," said Dad. "I have a meeting I can't be late for." "I haven't put on my costume yet." "So go put it on already. 5 minutes. I'll be outside." I rushed to my room and started to put on the Boba Fett costume, but all of a sudden I didn't feel like wearing it. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it had all these belts that I needed to be tightened and I needed someone's help to put it on, or maybe it was because it smelled a little like paint. All I knew was that it was a lot of work to put that costume on, and Dad was waiting and would get super impatient if I made him late. So at the last minute, I threw on the Bleeding Scream costume from last year. It was such an easy costume. Just a long black robe and a big white mask. I yelled goodbye from the door on my way out, but Mom didn't even hear me. I thought you were going as Jango Fett, said Dad when I got outside. Boba Fett. Whatever, Dad said. This is a better costume anyway. Yeah, it's cool, I answered. All right. Next chapter is called The Bleeding Scream. Walking through the halls that morning on my way to the lockers was, I have to say, absolutely awesome. Everything was different now. I was different. Where I usually walked with my head down, trying to avoid being seen, today I walked with my head up, looking around. I wanted to be seen. One kid wearing the same exact costume as mine, long, white skull face, oozing fake red blood, high-fived me as we passed each other on the stairs. I have no idea who he was, and he had no idea who I was, and I wondered for a second if he would ever done that if he'd known it was me under the mask. I was starting to think that this was going to go down as one of the most awesome days in the history of my life. But then I got to homeroom. The first costume I saw as I walked inside the door was Darth Sidious. It had one of those rubber masks that are so realistic, with a big black hood over the head and a long black robe. I knew right away that it was Julian, of course. He must have changed his costume at the last minute because he thought I was coming as Jango Fett. He was talking to two mummies who must have been Miles and Henry, and they were all kind of looking at the door like they were waiting for someone to come through it. I knew it wasn't a bleeding scream they were looking for. It was a Boba Fett. I was going to go and sit in my usual desk, but for some reason, I don't know why, I found myself walking over to a desk near them, and I could hear them talking. One of the mummies was saying, "It really doesn't look like him." Like this part especially, answered Julian's voice. He put his fingers on the cheeks and eyes of the Darth Sidious mask. Actually, said the mummy, what he really looks like is one of those shrunken heads. Have you ever seen those? He looks exactly like that. I think he looks like an orc. Oh, yeah. If I looked at like that, said the Julian voice, kind of laughing, I swear to God, I would put a hood over my face every day. Remember, Augie's hearing all of this. I've thought about this a lot, said the second mummy, sounding serious, and I really think if I looked like him seriously, I think I'd kill myself. You would not, answered Darth Sidious. Yeah, for real, insisted the same mummy. I can't imagine looking in the mirror every day and seeing myself like that. It would be too awful. And getting stared at all the time? Then why do you hang out with him so much? Asked Darth Sidious. I don't know, answered the mummy. Tushman asked me to hang out with him at the beginning of the year, and he must have told all the teachers to put us next to each other in all of our classes or something. The mummy shrugged. I knew the shrug, of course. I knew the voice. I knew I wanted to run out of the class right then and there, but I stood where I was and listened to Jack Will finish what he was saying. I mean, the thing is, he always follows me around. What am I supposed to do? Just ditch him, said Julian. I don't know what Jack answered because I walked out of the class without anyone knowing I had been there. My face felt like it was on fire while I walked back down the stairs. I was sweating under my costume, and I started crying. I couldn't keep it from happening. The tears were so thick in my eyes I could barely see, but I couldn't wipe them through my mask as I walked. I was looking for a tiny spot to disappear into. I wanted a hole I could fall inside of, a little black hole that would eat me up. So you should be able to answer number 8 on your worksheet right now. Names. Rat Boy, Freak, Monster, Freddy Krueger, E.T., Gross Out, Lizard Face, Mutant. I know the names they call me. I've been in enough playgrounds to know kids can be mean. I know. I ended up in the second floor bathroom. No one was there because first period had started and everyone was in class. I locked the door to my stall and took off my mask and just cried for I don't know how long. Then I went to the nurse's office and told her I had a stomach ache, which was true because I'd felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. Nurse Molly called Mom and had me lie down on the sofa next to her. 15 minutes later, Mom was at the door. "Sweetness," she said, coming over to hug me. "Hi," I mumbled. I didn't want her to ask anything until afterward. "You have a stomach ache?" she asked, automatically putting her hand on my forehead to check my temperature. "He says he feels like throwing up," said Nurse Molly, looking at me with very nice eyes. "And I have a headache," I whispered. "I wonder if it's something you ate?" asked Mom, looking worried. "There's a stomach bug going around," said Nurse Molly. "Oh, geez," said Mom, her eyebrows going up as she shook her head. She helped me to my feet. "Should I call a taxi, or are you okay walking home?" "I can walk." "What a brave kid," said Nurse Molly, patting me on the back as she walked us towards the door. "If he starts throwing up or runs a temperature, you should call the doctor." "Absolutely," said Mom, shaking Nurse Molly's hand. "Thank you so much for taking care of him." "My pleasure," answered Nurse Molly, putting her hand under my chin and tilting up my face. "You take care of yourself, okay?" I nodded and mumbled, "Thank you." Mom and I hug walked the whole way home. I didn't tell her anything about what happened, and later when she asked me if I felt well enough to go trick-or-treating after school, I said no. This worried her, since she knew how much I usually loved trick-or-treating. I heard her say to Dad on the phone, "He doesn't even have the energy to go trick-or-treating." No fever at all." "Well, I will if he doesn't feel better by tomorrow." "I know, poor thing. Imagine his missing Halloween." I got out of going to school the next day too, which was Friday. So I had the whole weekend to think about everything. I was pretty sure I would never go back to school again. All right, that's as far as we're reading today. Okay, next week we're going to start part 2. So from the reading clip today, you should be able to answer numbers 8, 9, and 10. And then if you can draw a picture for number 10, that's great. If it's too hard to draw a picture using the Chromebook and the stylist, then you don't have to draw a picture if you don't want to. Let me know if you guys have any questions on the worksheet, and please turn it in before class on Tuesday. Thanks.